importance of that is in simple words, we're trying to make good easy. Trying to make good easy for employees who want to bring their whole selves to work. We're trying to make it easy for consumers who want to align their purchases with their values. We're trying to make it easy for investors who want to move beyond typical socially responsible investing to high impact investing. We're making it easy for suppliers who want to find business partners that are aligned with their interests. And there are also policymakers in the room. We're making it easy for policymakers because you couldn't pass a Sustainable Business Procurement Act in Oakland today if you wanted to. Because somebody would say, that's a great idea, please go in that room and figure out who we should be supporting. And then they'd say, great, who's a sustainable business? And everybody would look at each other. And then the legislator or the executive or whoever would say, great, well, come back to me when you figure that out. And then we can talk about that executive order. And so this makes it easier for policymakers to create procurement incentives, tax incentives, investment incentives for companies that are having high impact. And this is not an insignificant market today. There are already over 20,000 businesses in the United States that are dues-paying members of green, local, responsible, sustainable business associations, community development associations, et cetera. We know who they are, like they exist, and they're already, we don't have to convince them to operate differently. What we are in the process of doing through the leadership of these companies is saying, join a group that is willing to meet these high standards and project a common voice so that we are more visible to the world. So it's not just when there's an amazing article in the Chronicle and so, oh yeah, I heard about that company, and then it's gone, but it's not connected to the next article that came out, it's not when Patagonia is on the cover of Fortune is the coolest brand on the planet. It's benefiting Patagonia, but it's not really benefiting Give Something Back in any particular way. But by sharing a common brand and saying, oh, that's a B Corp. Oh yeah, that's like this other winery I knew, or this airline, or whatever it might be. Now you're creating marketplace, and that marketplace today is over $40 billion large. That's more than twice the collective revenue, sorry, another sports metaphor, of every major sports franchise and all major force sports in the United States. Baseball, basketball, football, and I'm throwing in hockey just because somebody told me it was a real sport. And you could take the collective revenues of all those franchises, double them, and then throw in ESPN on top of it for good measure, and you would get to the size of the existing marketplace of sustainable business and social entrepreneurship. But it doesn't feel like that because it's completely diluted and completely fragmented. And so that's the power of bringing it together with a collective voice. We really believe that we're witnessing the creation of a new sector of the economy. And Bill Gates talks about creative capitalism at Davos. And Muhammad Yunus talks about social capitalism when he receives the Nobel Peace Prize. And if you're on the environmental side, Paul Hawken and Amory and Hunter Lovins talk about natural capitalism. Everybody's talking about new capitalism. If you're going to have a new capitalism, you have to have a new type of company. And this new sector of the economy is marrying the power of the private enterprise with the purpose of the nonprofit and government sector. And that's what we're witnessing right now. And so we're not trying to name the sector. It could just be new capitalism for all we care. But we are trying to give meaning to the actual company that people would support, because that's the thing which actually people can identify with. It's hard to say I support a new economy, because no one really knows what that means. But I can say I support B corporations because they're tangible, they're concrete, I can meet them, I can be inspired by them, I can find their website and purchase stuff from them. As we think about the vision going forward, B Corps today are not, they are illegally meaningful form, but they are not legally recognized by the state of California or the state of Vermont or whatever it might be. And so as we look forward, yes, there will be legal recognition for B Corps just like there are C Corps and S Corps. And there's actually legislation pending in California right now, not to recognize B Corps, but a step in that direction, which is to have California become the first state in the country that actually has a constituency statute that recognizes the environment as a constituent. None of the other 31 states in the country that have constituency statutes recognize the environment explicitly. So it's through the Assembly, it's through the Senate Judiciary Committee, it's likely to get through the floor of the Senate because there's apparently a huge Democratic majority here, which means it's going to go to Arnold. And so if people are interested in supporting sustainable business, for-profit social enterprise, stakeholder-driven businesses, there's something going on right now, and I can talk to you about it later about how to lend your support, because this should be an it's a no-cost, high-visibility, potentially highly leverageable win, consistent with Arnold's sort of nonpartisan, million solar home, regional climate change initiatives to say, yeah, and I support private sector taking the leadership to solve social and environmental problems. And we're going to get government out of the way and allow these businesses to do what they do best, which is solve problems with speed and at scale. This is a necessary precondition to tax incentives, procurement incentives, investment incentives for B Corps, all of which help accelerate the marketplace beyond what we can do sort of doing wonderful one-off events and recruiting and stuff like that. And also, I won't go into this anymore, but on the investment side, there are not only B corporations, but there are B corporation capital partners. And these are investment institutions, either family offices, large institutions that have decided they're going to use the B rating system as a tool for their due diligence and portfolio management. And so there's a group organized by the Rockefeller Foundation called the Rockefeller Impact Investing Collaborative that involves massive institutional investors from both the US and Europe that is going to be beta testing a version of this for institutional investors in the back half of this year, and not only for sort of general private equity, but also a specific survey for developing world small and medium enterprises, or small growing businesses, SGBs. So there's a lot of activity going on the investment side because you recognize that capital is crucial. If we're not attracting more capital to this space, then we might as well just go home. And then lastly, we're working with an organization called the UK SSE, the UK Social Stock Exchange, to create a public stock exchange for B Corps. Because no matter how many beautiful private equity firms, double bottom line private equity firms there are, they're effectively just transitional objects. It's somebody who's talking about the Olympics. It's just a baton relay. And so it's nice to have somebody carrying the baton from here to there that vibes with you and is all about mission. But they've got LPs and they got a 7-year close and they're going to have to sell it anyway. And so the question is what happens post-sale? There has to be a liquid, mission-aligned public market in the long run for this to work and allow the same retail investors that are supporting these individual products to support these individual companies. And what we envision is in the generation where my kids are going to school and our grandkids are going to school is that you'll have this new sector that'll be as large as the nonprofit sector is today, which is like 5–7% of US GDP. And unlike the nonprofit sector, where that's kind of like, you know, a relative ceiling as to where it can be, because it's sort of like just carrying around a begging bowl all day, is because this is the private enterprise, this can attract talent and this can attract capital. And that just becomes the tipping point where eventually you have this emergent sector, this new corporate form, crowding out the old. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody's a B Corp and I can go home and do something else. The last question would be, well, that's all great, but what the heck's in it for me if I'm an individual entrepreneur? And so there are 4 things. One is becoming a B Corp helps you differentiate your business. There's an increasing amount of greenwashing, local washing, cause marketing going on, created by this community's success. The more successful these leaders are, the more pain is going to rain down on them when all the larger companies jump into the marketplace. And there is an example of a local company here to Oakland that is getting into the marketplace of 7th generation and method that I'm not allowed to talk about in this particular setting. But that's an example of people should be able to make a choice as to whether they think a product from method buying that green household product is different than buying a larger multinational company's green product that just came out with a green product line. What's the company that you're supporting, not just the product that you're supporting? It can help you maintain your mission, plan for succession, legacy, et cetera. You can access specific service partnerships. And so if you're a B Corp, you get Salesforce.com, if anybody knows what a CRM platform is, you get it for 75% off. Congratulations. So there are now 9 B corporations that are saving over almost $150,000 per year because they're a B Corp, because the marketplace is reacting and saying, oh, now that you've defined what it means to be a high impact business, I'd love to support those businesses. And so I'm going to give B Corps the same discount I give to nonprofits. And so you pay, so that's a concrete financial savings for a B corporation. Another example is we're partnering with a magazine called Good, and on a new magazine called Good Business. So that sitting next to Wired and Inc. will be a new publication come the fall called Good Business that gives voice to this community, not just when the editor of the Chronicle wants to write a little story and then it's gone, but like a dedicated, consistent franchise voice for this community. And in addition to sort of partnering on content, B Corps are also offered a 50% discount on ads. So these are examples of how we're trying to create tangible, immediate financial and marketing benefit for B Corps. And then the last thing, and the thing that's probably been most common for all these early leaders, is each one of these entrepreneurs is motivated by something more than just developing the best company that they can. They want to influence the market beyond their own success. And so one way to think about B Corporation is it's a massive lever to pull. And so the more successful your individual company is, you're now pulling on a massive lever that helps you influence the marketplace in a much bigger way than you could, even if you took your business from 5 to 50 million. As we think about it, it's when the alignment of a longer term vision about like sort of social change, sort of theory of change, a new sector of the economy, when those incentives align with individual incentives about how can this help my business today, it's when those things come into line that we have a chance to create the change we seek together.